All right, and we're here at Med Talk on AM 1570, FM 104.5. I'm your host, Carl Castillo, and our guest today.
I'm Dr. Jack Perkins. I'm an emergency medicine physician. I'm also the executive director of the Compressive Shock Foundation.
And you are?
Lucas Hager. I'm a partner with Dr. Jack. I survived a cardiac arrest with the help of CPR and AEDs.
And do we have your permission to put this online?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, tell us a little bit about the Compressive Shock Foundation, because what I understood from, I was talking to the nurse at Carillion last week or 2 weeks ago about this, and she said now they've changed the idea of mouth-to-mouth. Is that no longer part of the plan, or?
So the Compressive Shock Foundation was established roughly 2 years ago.
Okay.
And essentially what we're trying to do is bring a national CPR and defibrillator education day to this country. So the second Saturday of each May, we want American citizens to think of this as a life skill. So much like we spend a lot of time educating our young individuals learning how to drive responsibly in this country, we see CPR skills as the exact same thing. So that if you are a citizen, you would have the knowledge to resuscitate anybody who has a cardiac arrest in the mall, supermarket, in Lucas's case, at a high school basketball game. This is anybody, anytime, anywhere. And so we feel very strongly this is a life skill. So we want to educate the American public for free every year on the second Saturday of May. So that was the background.
Coming up on the 12th.
May 12th, every second Saturday of May. May 12th, this year in Franklin County, it's going to be at Carillion Wellness in Westlake. Open to anybody 13 and over, 60 minutes of exactly what you need to save a life. CPR and defibrillator training. I'm glad you asked about the mouth-to-mouth, because the first 15 to 20 minutes is all undoing myths that the American public has associated with CPR. For about a decade now, we have done away with mouth-to-mouth. It does not offer benefit to somebody who has a cardiac arrest outside of the hospital. Another myth is that there is any potential to be sued. So if you are a bystander and you intervene on somebody in a cardiac arrest in good faith, there is a Good Samaritan law in place in every state in this country. Another myth, the fact that you can hurt somebody with a defibrillator. In fact, the only thing you could do to hurt somebody is not doing anything. Defibrillators are all programmed such that they will not intervene if a shock is not indicated.
So they're smarter now.
They are very smart. As a matter of fact, there's stories of defibrillators that have been used successfully in airports most often, where the individual taking it off the wall has no prior training, simply turns it on, follows the directions, and has saved a life.
So there are clear directions on it as what to do. Is that audio or video?
It is audio. They are all standardized. As soon as you turn them on, it walks you through the steps in terms of apply pads, analyzing rhythm. It'll tell you to stop CPR so it can analyze the heart rhythm, and then the computer will tell you whether a shock is advised or not. If a shock is advised, it will deliver a shock. If not, it will tell you to continue CPR. Every device is standardized in this fashion, and the only mistake you can make is not using it.
That's an amazing piece of equipment. Now, for example, how can you tell there's a cardiac event? How do you know when to start CPR? I mean, are there other things can be confused for that?
Absolutely. Another great question. So part of the education we provide is breaking down some of these misconceptions. So one of the first things that people misconstrue is, what is cardiac arrest? A lot of people think it's a heart attack. Well, heart attack can lead to cardiac arrest.
Could you,
Cardiac arrest is when somebody collapses and there is not any cardiac activity that's supplying blood flow to the rest of the body. And one of the first things that happens is you lose blood flow to the brain, so the person collapses. Well, when the person collapses, one of the things that you might see as a witness to this is what you think is seizure-like activity. So seizure-like activity in cardiac arrest comes from lack of blood supply to the brain.
Okay.
So one of the very first things that witnesses will see is they were shaking. We thought this was a seizure,
Okay.
when in fact it's cardiac arrest. So we are teaching in our training that check, call, and compress. So the first thing you do when somebody goes down is you're checking them for responsiveness. So this is really simple. You're not checking for a pulse anymore.
Okay.
You're just saying, are they responsive to you? So
Can they communicate with you in some way?
Exactly. And then you're checking their breathing pattern. Like and you're asking yourself a very simple question. The person is collapsed. You're checking them for responsiveness. If they're unresponsive, is their breathing pattern anything but normal?
Okay.
So if in your mind their breathing pattern is anything but normal, you start CPR.
Okay.
Very simple. They are not responsive. They have an abnormal breathing pattern. You are starting CPR. That's check. You call 911, and then you start compressing.
Okay.
So the mistake that is made is not starting soon enough. So every 60 seconds that CPR is delayed, the chance of survival goes down by 10%. 60
Really?
seconds.
Wow.
And you've lost 10% chance for survival. So getting on the chest immediately is so important.
And you'll show them how to do that, because people
Absolutely,
say, they're like,
sir.
wait a minute, do I put my hands this way? Is one on top of the other? Is it at the sternum? Is it where exactly?
So
Right.
one of the other pieces of our education is we're focusing on not just chest compressions, but quality chest compressions.
Okay.
So making sure that you are compressing at least 100 times a minute. You are compressing for full recoil, meaning like you need 2 inches of depth of compression on an
Okay.
adult, and you got to let the chest recoil completely, because what you're doing is kind of like a vacuum technique.
Okay.
So the pressure differences that you're generating in the chest are literally moving blood through the heart. Okay, if that makes sense. It'll make a lot more sense in the actual practicum.
Right. You kind of have to see it. You can visual. I mean, you've seen it on TV.
Absolutely.
But I don't know if that's right.
A lot of what's
And-
seen on TV is incorrect, and one of the main points there I would
For
say,
dramatic
yeah.
effects, you know.
So research came out recently asking the American public, what do you think their survival rate is from cardiac arrest? And a lot of this information came from television.
Yeah.
Because on television they like to see their characters
Well,
live.
usually, yeah. 90%
So
of the time.
the American public said the chances of surviving an out-of-hospital cardiac arrest was greater than 50%.
Okay.
In reality, it's less than 10. In some areas of the
Wow.
country, it's 2%.
Man.
The absolute best in the country is in the Seattle area, close to 10%. And the reason why is they have an extremely robust educational platform for the public. So the Seattle Emergency Medicine Services and Fire Department goes out in the community, very similar to what we're doing, and they go after their community to teach them CPR. So they are much more likely to have their citizens get on top of somebody that is arrested. That's how you see the differences in outcomes.
Do you see this potentially being offered in the high schools at some point in the future? So people, like health class, like gym class, like whatever.
So the Compress and Shock Foundation, I'd like to say that if anybody has any questions, you can go to compressandshock.org or email us anytime at compressandshock@gmail.com, and we will answer any question that you have. So what we are saying is that the American public needs a couple things, okay? And what we saw that the Red Cross and the Heart Association had done was there were some barriers, not that they had intentionally had erected, but in terms of the public, you need to make it free, okay? You need to make it accessible, so 1 day a year. You need to make it just exactly what the public needs, so 60 minutes to save a life, and we have done all of that. So instead of, our foundation has really put a lot of thought into this, and instead of going to every high school and every church, there's no possible way we're going to have the resources and volunteer instructors to do that every year. But if you look at an avenue, so we have partnered with fitness facilities, okay? Very specifically in terms of like, this is the platform that we see is going to be successful nationwide. So go to the YMCA, go to Carillion Wellness, go to the Green Ridge Rec Center, go to CrossFit facilities. Fitness facilities are already thinking about their members' health. And secondly, if you open it up to the community and the public, don't charge them anything, they're going to have the community walk into their fitness facility, see that they're offering a platform that is going to help them save lives, and they may leave there and start, maybe I should become a member here. I really like what this fitness facility is offering. I like the fact that they're thinking about their community.
Above and beyond.
Exactly. So we're seeing this as a win-win for fitness facilities, and indeed we have partnered with 19 fitness facilities in the Roanoke area that are offering this. There is no charge to their members, there's no charge to the community. We provide the instructors, we provide the equipment. So in terms of, we see this as second Saturday of May, fitness facilities in your area, so that you won't have to look for an event anywhere online. in terms of like, hey, listen, I gotta do this to look up. He's like, no, that's not the case. You know, every second Saturday in May in your area, there are going to be fitness facilities that are offering this education. So that is why we're using them as a platform. So unfortunately, we knew that we could not possibly go to every high school and every church. And in those cases, it would be very difficult for us to say, why are we offering it at this high school? That's a county high school. This is a city one. That's a private one. So we're like, we can't do that. Same with churches. We're saying we need to use fitness facilities because they don't have any political or religious affiliations. This is just for the community. If you're going back to our concept of this is a life skill, then you need to take all of those affiliations out of it and just make it something that makes sense to people. That's why we chose fitness facilities.
Is there any way down the line that you can train the trainers? You pass the information along so other people can do it, so forth and so on down the line, so you've got more people able to do this, and then of course the funding is necessary to find these devices as well as the training.
Wonderful question. So you're asking, like, so this year we have about 100 volunteer instructors. So, and the volunteer instructors in the greater Roanoke area, and we're talking Blacksburg, Botetourt, Franklin County, Roanoke, we have physicians, we have nurses, we have physician assistants, we have nurse practitioners, we have medical students, we have physician assistant students. So certainly the public can understand that physicians, especially emergency medicine physicians, emergency nurses that work in the emergency department, this is in their wheelhouse. They don't need any special training. However, medical students and physician assistant students, they may not necessarily feel comfortable jumping right in there as the instructor.
Right.
What we have done is we have said, if you want to help us teach, we will put you through our course before this.
Okay.
So we reached out specifically to the medical school, Virginia Tech Carilion School of Medicine, as well as the Jefferson College of Health Sciences physician assistant program, and said, listen, we would love to have you as our part of our instructor force. We will make sure that we put you through the training session and make sure you are familiar with our education. So exactly, we are happy to do that. And that's how we actually control costs as well, because we say, listen, we'll 2 weeks beforehand, we'll put you through the course, we'll bring you up to speed, and we'll make sure that you feel comfortable.
Wow. Now this is amazing. Now, is there some point you need help in funding? Because I don't know how much these devices cost and how you can, get them everywhere you need to. And that must be a tremendous effort there.
Yeah, so the large costs that we are absorbing right now as a foundation are through advertising. Now, fortunately, we have wonderful free advertising opportunities like we have this morning. Thank you very much for having us here. But a lot of it is the advertising and media development, webpage and so forth, and then equipment. So if you think about going forward, if you're going to have one day a year and have the entire country involved, that's a heck of a lot of mannequins and AED trainers. And to give you an idea of the cost, so for 5 mannequins, it's roughly $200, $250 if you're talking about getting them at cost in bulk. AED trainers, a little bit more expensive. Obviously, there's computer equipment involved. AEDs themselves, defibrillators themselves, if you buy them, they're anywhere from $800 to $2,000. The trainers are about $300 to $400 if you buy them in a pack of 4 or 5. So if you're talking like there's a substantial outpouring of investment. We are trying to partner and have been fairly successful so far. I don't want to go into details as we're still working them out. The idea behind this is we would like people to start asking the question when they come for this education is, should we be buying an AED for our church, our business, our smaller fitness facility, maybe even our home, wherever we are? And it would be an ideal situation if defibrillators were everywhere. And we understand that $800 to $1,000 or $2,000 is a substantial investment for a lot of small businesses, small fitness facilities, or small churches. So we have partnered this year so that if you come for this education, we are going to partner you with one of our defibrillator manufacturers with discounted pricing. And the whole purpose for this is we want you to get the education. We don't want defibrillators put up without partnering it with the education you need.
Right. You can't. Okay? It's like giving somebody a car who hasn't known how to
drive.
That's
exactly right. Car dealerships don't cold call 15-year-olds and sell them a car. That's not responsible business.
No.
We don't want AEDs put up without the proper training. Now, a lot of AED companies do partner this with training. What we're saying is, like, come get our 60 minutes of education absolutely free, and then please think about whether or not an AED is appropriate for your place of business, where you work out, your church, whatever. There is no question that AEDs save lives. This year alone, in the past year, there was an article that came out that suggested that just by having more AEDs, we've saved 2,000 lives in this country. Just by expanding where AEDs are in businesses, in fitness facilities, in churches, in malls, putting them in police cars. As a foundation, we would like to see them ubiquitous throughout the country, because CPR is a avenue to get to a defibrillator, right? You are just keeping them to the point you have to defibrillate people if you're going to get them back in a perfusing rhythm. Okay. So defibrillators are part and parcel of CPR.
Okay, I want to talk about Lucas, and because first of all, obvious question, I don't know what it looks like. I've never seen an event that I know of.
Right.
I did see someone, I think, who had a seizure.
Right.
And I kind of know what that looks like. But a cardiac event, I'm not quite sure. We're going to take a little quick Carillion break, and we'll come back and discuss that. This is AM 1570, FM 104.5, and we're talking about the Compress and Shock Foundation with Dr. Perkins and Lucas Hager. We'll be right back.